Good evening. Welcome to Unveiled, where all conversations are safe, revealing, and uncuffed. Tonight's show is partnered with Chris's Dishes, Jenn Chavez Photography, and sponsored by WSBI LLC, your resource for success podcast. Here are your hosts for this evening, Carmine and Kimberly Pesce, Chris and Jenn Chavez. Ooh, what are we revealing tonight? We are revealing the song that never ends, Work-Life Balance.
This is a song that never
y'all singing it. Sing it.
It goes on and
This is an enigma. Is there such a thing as work-life balance?
There's not enough whiskey in this coffee.
There's no whiskey in your coffee.
I have whiskey.
I was going to say.
Yeah, we can add that.
What's your poison?
Whatever you need. So obviously, this is a conversation that will never end. Okay, because it's a constant work-life balance. What does that really mean? It's funny because I've heard people get mad when you say the term work-life balance. A lot of people do not agree with that. Then of
Those
course,
are the people that have miserable lives.
Right, but then, of course, that's what people do strive for, is work-life balance. So what are your thoughts about that, you guys? What do you think?
I'm going to jump right in because this is a topic that I get into with people a lot. One, I don't call it work-life balance. I call it life-work balance. My life is my priority over work.
Oh, I love
spent
it.
way too many years making work a priority. And when I was in my 20s, it was about, okay, I'm the breadwinner. I got to make sure that I can take care of everything, and work was my priority. And then I had Amanda, and I was still the breadwinner, and it was, all right, work is still my priority. And I would fill in my blanks with my life. And then after all of that ended and I changed my career and came to work for the government, I saw it was happening again, and I made work my priority. For whatever the reason was. You know, we were going through our things and life and external stuff, but it becomes that what you can control, because that's your control, and by default becomes priority. And then I left, and I realized how god-awful and unbalanced it was, and how sick it got me. I was physically, emotionally, and mentally a wretched human. And while work didn't see that side of it, he did. And I am so grateful and blessed for the last, how long has it been? 9 months of not prioritizing work.
Yeah.
I do. I prioritize life now. I prioritize everything that has to do with what is truly going to make me happy. And if it's not worrying about everybody else and somebody has a problem with that, tough shit.
Right. And I agree that what you seen, I seen at work that she didn't see. The constant running around like the rat on the wheel, constantly worrying about everybody else, people standing outside the door in a line, literally, every day, as if they could not function on their own. Every day was a problem. It was unbelievable. And I would tell her, I was like, I'm not coming in here unless I need to. And some days I would just go in there just so she could get the relief. Not because I needed anything. And she'd be like, just shut the door. Just shut the door. Just so she could have a moment to just calm down. Because everybody was bringing not results, but problems.
All problems.
All problems. Mm-hmm. And to have to work 7 days a week versus just having a normal life, there was no such thing.
Thank you.
And, you know, I get you. You're right. This thing of so-called work-life balance, there is no such thing. You have to make that. And I like the terminology that you use of life-work balance. And you're right. And that's something I think that I can agree that I have strived for many, many years, and have had to turn that terminology over myself, because I've been more of a business owner for probably as many years as I have been working. So I've gone back and forth from working to being a business owner for years, go back to work, business owner. And I've done that because it also maintains my opportunity to continue to learn and to grow.
Yes.
And then going back into the business world and also giving other people opportunity to give them a job and to get their time to learn and to grow as well. But then coming back into that environment of working for others, they don't get that. They don't get the understanding that it's not just about bringing in the money. It's not just about sitting in your cubicle all day long and you look up, you can't even breathe to have a lunch. If I hear one more person tell me, "Oh, you shouldn't be working during your lunch hour. You should take your 30 minutes."
Then why do you
set up a damn meeting
during lunch?
And have the audacity to get an attitude about it when we say something.
I agree. I think that you're spot on. I like changing the words, life-work balance, right? It's not really a balance because from my perspective, early on in my career in telecommunications, there was no life-work. It was work-life.
Yep.
And it consumed. But then again, that was an industry that was growing at a rapid pace, very competitive, and I actually enjoyed everything I was doing. It was from the work week into Friday cutover into Saturday morning leaving and going to have breakfast.
Yep.
All right, and then Sunday was your life balance, right? And it was mostly crash and burn, right? But it was sustained. It couldn't be sustained for very long periods of time because the culture that we were in always talked about work-life balance.
Yes.
But they were different than what the government is today. It was, hey, take Monday off, take Tuesday. It was like you did a good job all week, you worked through the weekend.
Yep.
Don't come back till Wednesday. It was a different philosophy.
100%.
Right? And you had the ability to do that. That's not the case here. So even though today we talk about work-life balance and they talk about it as if they understand it, it's really, if they understood it, they would say, don't work past the 8 hours a day, right?
So I always find it interesting for you, having been as being a soldier, you only had work for so long. Where did the life balance come in?
It wasn't work. That was our life.
That's right.
Because I think if you have career service members who understand the mission is to, be there, be ready to go at a moment's notice to defend our country and do the things that we need to do. But at the age of 18, 19 years old, and I was like, oh my God, this is going to take forever. Fast forward 20 years, it's like, holy shit, where did it go? Because that was the life. There was, our work-life balance was, we worked and played with everybody that we knew. Mm-hmm. And now with what we do, some of us do now, it's literally you go in there and your relationships that you have with some of these people can either be really good or really bad, but there's people who don't understand, no matter what, tomorrow, if you don't show up, this train's still going to keep going. And nobody cares that you left, or nobody cares that you're there. Yep. It's absolutely true. Our leadership is freaking horrid. And they can't even... You have leaders that you don't even know what goes on in their own organization, nor do they know that they don't even know what certain things are within their organization. They have to be able to talk to it. So
that's what so as we were talking off before coming on live, back in, when did it start? Started the beginning of March. I took a class about leadership and how to be an effective leader and the attributes of a good leader and the skills of a good leader. And every day, at the end of the day, when Chris would get home from work, he's like, so how was school? Because we always joke about me being in school. And I was like, school is fine, or my brain hurts. There was so much knowledge being shared, and I had wonderful instructors. And for anybody I'm going to give them a plug, because I got to say, for anyone in the government, if you work for the Army, I highly recommend you take the CES intermediate course. It shed light on what you really should be doing and what a good leader is. And it highlighted to me, to Chris's point, what a poor leader is. And the same people that are scheduling meetings during your lunch don't care about your life.
Why schedule a meeting at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon? People want to go home. People don't want to like sit in a freaking tanning booth for freaking 8 hours and look at a freaking monitor and then have to go home and do life stuff. It's like, because we're sitting there and we're literally like 90% of the conversation that we have at our work is everything but the 10% of work. It's like, right?
Right.
I mean, you're like, hey,
I didn't know we were going to go down this path, though, because I really don't want it to be a bitch session about the government.
I don't think it's about the government.
No,
I think it's anywhere you work.
It's anywhere you work today, right?
Yeah.
But because I can only compare the companies that I worked for, Rome, IBM, Siemens, Unified, these different companies that really professed a great place to work.
Define that, though.
Okay, so Rome, even though I didn't work in headquarters, I worked in New York, right? I was the third person hired for the New York office. But the philosophy was the same. If you worked in Santa Clara, California, there was a campus there that had flexible hours for everybody. Everybody. Mm-hmm. If you wanted to work from 2 a.m. to 10 because you had other obligations, perfect.
Right.
You could do that. There's a full gym, like at that time, Gold's Gym was small compared to the gym that was there. Olympic-sized swimming pool. It was the epitome of a great place to work, only because the competition in Santa Clara, it was always robbing Peter to pay Paul. One of the biggest benefits, they did a study and they said, okay, on your 6th year of working at this tempo, you need time off. And it was a 6-month sabbatical that you were entitled to every 6th year because of the pressure, right? And then, so the great minds that did this didn't realize that we were going to grow at a pace where you can't afford to give everybody off 6 months every 6th year, because then you have your workforces out, right?
Right.
So they says, we'll reduce it to 3 months, and then we reduce it to 6 weeks, or you could take the 6 months and still continue to work. But they would pay you a check, right? So for a year, you got paid 18 months, right? So that's the true epitome of a great place to work. Their idea of a great place to work. Was it sustainable? Not when IBM took over, because they
got rid of it.
They got rid of it.
Right.
So then the question becomes, so what defines life-work balance? Is it up to your organization to provide it for you, or is it up to you to make it yourself?
Well, hold on. I'm going to use somebody at this table, for example.
That's the ice machine.
Live.
I thought somebody was knocking.
I thought it was somebody knocking too. I was like, what's going on? So we'll take somebody for example at this table. Is that some people with their job have to communicate with people that work overseas, and yet they have to spend that time at work longer. Does that person ever get compensated for that time?
Absolutely not.
None. 0. And I know if any of my old soldiers ever listen to this, there was plenty of times where we worked countless numbers of hours, and there was always times when I was like, hey, take an extra hour here, take an extra hour there, because that's what good leadership is supposed to be like. But people have lives outside what they do for money. Like I'd much rather be home.
And it's a more complicated world today than it was back then.
Absolutely.
Well, and in reality, it's not that much more complicated. The complication becomes with the leadership, right? So no matter what environment you're in, if your leaders feel that they have to micromanage and hover over you and don't know how to allow the individuals to do their job, so majority of us sitting at this table have all been in leadership roles, right? And if we don't know how, those people don't know how to allow us to be accountable for what we do, then what kind of leaders are you? So it's not so much that anything is any more complicated. It's about allowing the people to do their jobs and learning to believe that they can do their jobs without having to micromanage and hover over you to get things accomplished. So you should be able to come in, get your 8 hours in, or whatever program that you're under, and still be able to have a life.
Right.
But because there's so much of that, oh, I got to hover over this person to see what they're doing, or I'm going to manage. Well, we want you to do your job, but we're still going to hover over you and still tell you how to do your job. You can't have it both ways.
So let me ask you a question then. We've all worked in the private sector at one point in our lives.
Absolutely.
And I have owned my own business just like you. I know you. Well, you're now technically as a contract. But my point here is, so having owned my own business and knowing the type of people needed to make sure my business functioned, there was a certain personality type that had to be hired. I had a client who was so god awful to their people. They would, to your point, schedule meetings during lunch hours, not compensate them with like time off, even though they worked 60, 70 hours that week. And I dropped them as a client. I was like, I'm done with you. You can't respect your people, so your people are not respecting my people. That's not how I do business. And there was a financial impact, obviously. I think when we look at the life-work balance of people, there's fear of, well, how am I going to pay my bills if I lose my job? What if I fight back? What if I push back? So my question is, why wouldn't you push back? Having been the person that didn't push back, now... Don't tell me I have a meeting during my lunch. If you want me to take that half-hour lunch, don't schedule a meeting because I won't be there.
People have already learned with me. If it's anything after 3:00, 1500 for you military folk, I ain't gonna be there because my life is sitting across from me at this table and friends. Because there's more important things than having to worry if somebody freaking can't talk on a phone.
Well, and it's funny. We see more and more people get up and don't show up, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of people just don't show up anymore. And the funnier part about it, they leave those people alone as if they don't exist. And then they expect other people just to be there. So there's never, instead of addressing the issue and addressing the elephant in the room, they just ignore it. So then you end up finding that there's always just a handful of people who have to fight for everybody. And that's the sadder part about it. So
breeds
it's
hostility.
So it still goes back to leadership. So it depends on the individuals not understanding what real leadership is. And, we shouldn't have to fight every role, every stage. It's no different than having my team. Like I tell my team, we are one. But we have to be able to work together. I'm not going to work you to death, but at the same time, I have my expectations just like they have expectations of me, whether I'm in the corporate arena, whether I'm in the government arena, or whether it's my own business, right? We all have a certain role to play. I play hard and I work hard, bottom line. But at the same token, I don't have time to hover over you. I'm not here to babysit you.
But you are in essence, because as a leader, there is a certain amount of watching that has to be done. However, with that said,
what's my favorite saying? You're the what as a leader? You're the QA/QC. That's all you are.
You are, but if I have to do that to the point where I'm micromanaging you and babysitting you, I'm doing and trying to do your role, you got to go. Yep. And I have no problem with walking you to the door, and everybody knows that.
So at what point does it become, do you put the onus back on yourself for your own life-work balance? Because we all have our, we watched something the other night where they were talking about everyone's got their price, and I can't remember what it was.
How I Met Your Mother.
Okay, what was that? But it was, they made the statement of everybody,
yes.
Actually it was 24. It was How I Met.
24,
It
yeah,
was how, what is your price? Everyone's got a price. And to me, it took me a very long time. When it was my business, my price was very high. Very high. It bottom line. Working for another entity, not my own, going through what I went through, where the scales of justice or work-life balance, life-work balance were very unsettled. It's not as much anymore. Right now, I am at a stage in my life where maturity, knowledge I'll steal one of Carmine's favorites. My give a fucks or give a shits.
Mm-hmm.
My give a shit factor is in the mini micro fucks.
That's exactly it. And I don't have that patience anymore
Right.
for somebody to tell me that you have to. I don't have to do shit. I got to die and pay taxes and negotiable. So when it comes to having life work, I would much rather spend a nice day with y'all instead of somebody telling me, well, you're going to be late to your next thing. No, I'm not. You're not imposing your will on me. But again, we all have that breaking point. Like, at what point do you say, I can't live this way, I need to leave? I know what mine was.
Oh, I've been there. I mean, I guess you know when you know. And I've definitely have been there when, I won't say when the experience was, but during the time where, hey, I walked out the door, I said, hey, I know how to take care of myself. Mm-hmm. And when you need me, you know where to find me. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have to come back. I was asked to come back, but But at the end of the day, it gets to a point where I had to know where my priorities were for me.
Yes.
And, it's funny because I always get people ask me, well, how could you do that to yourself? How could you didn't want to go work for anybody else? No, because I knew my value.
Right.
And when you know who you are and you know what you can do for yourself and your capabilities, and that was the best experience was to be able to get back out there 100% and truly understand what I could do. I loved it. 100% working from home, remote. I could work the hours I wanted to work. I had a life.
Yep.
I was able to
see sunlight,
take some time, and if I need to get up and go work out, I could work out first, start my day. I could breathe.
But you felt good mentally.
I felt good mentally, and still could able to get. And I only worked 8 hours. Some days I didn't even work 8 hours. It really depended on what I needed to do to get what I had to do with the team that I was working with at the time, and then with my other mini staff that I had. I made it work for the betterment, but also I knew I still had people relying on me as well, right? So you have to know how to even balance that piece out. But I think a big part of it is just understanding who you are, and like you said, what you will and will not deal with. And some days I regret not holding on to that piece, and then other days I don't. It just really just depends. I think now I feel a little more regretful because I'm married now.
So again, another shift.
I want to be able to have more of a balance to spend more time with my significant other, to be able to be home and do other things and not have to worry about, oh shit, we got to sit in traffic for an hour and a half, or we got to rush out this door to do this. We got to rush. Everything now is back to the rush mode. Trying to figure out, well, what time we going to eat? Because now we got to wait till 7 o'clock, because we're not getting home at a certain time, Everything is based on their time versus my time. And that's the reality that we're living in. And then now that things are even more crazier with the environment that we're in versus how it used to be, people are on pins and needles, than what it used to be. So it's just about understanding who you are and your needs. And obviously there will be a time, where I'll have to make decisions whether I like it or not, or either they'll make decisions for me whether I like it or not. So it is what it is, and you just move on and you keep doing what you need to do. But I just think for us, we know what we have to do. We know what we want. I know my husband will be coming closer to his retirement, and once that retirement is there for him, then I can make the move that we need to have that'll be more beneficial for our family.
So the life-work balance, like I'm going to start saying that more than work-life
right.
balance. The life-work balance did change from when I was single, because it was easy to say, oh, I could work an extra 2 hours and it not impede the balance, the other balance, my life balance, because shit, I was 7 minutes away from the post, right? There's restaurants all over the place, so it wasn't an inconvenience, and I don't want to say an inconvenience. It wasn't. Those things I was willing to accept because I didn't need that 50-50 or 60-40.
But you're also a workaholic too.
Right, and that's one of the things that was a problem with being a workaholic. I was a workaholic
My whole life.
when I was in my
Yep.
my 17 on, right, and even when I had that little hiatus for when my tenure in the commercial world went away, and then coming here to Virginia, I still was a workaholic, right?
Absolutely.
But what you were saying is now the priorities change, and my priorities is different, and I struggle with that sometimes every day. It's like I understand that work has to get done, but at what cost? And I'm not willing to make it at my cost because there's no give and take there. It's expected that you devote all of your time to a job, and that's just not going to happen.
So who sets that expectation?
Well, it's a shared expectation. Go ahead.
So going back to what you had said earlier, babe, about it was different for you being in the Army for 20 years, where that was the life, right? And I think that's where I'm at with our balance, our life
work balance.
Life work balance is that for 20 years, I put everything else prior to me. And I spent, excuse my language, 6 deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan, multiple field training exercises, multiple 24-hour shifts, blah, 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 blah. Now I'm at the point where it's just like every time I get up and drive for 40 minutes there, 40 minutes back a day, it's like I don't want to give my life to those people anymore. I want to give my life to doing things I want to do for myself or for my family or for my friends.
So that's a great way to put it, right? I think it's about appreciation. Like you, I was a telecom baby, came up with the telecom world. It was high paced and I loved it. I'm not even going to lie to you.
It was addictive.
Loved it. There was not a single moment, and for anyone listening who knew me back then, I loved this shit. Like, you want to talk cutovers in the middle of the night? I got you, right? But it was great, and there was appreciation.
And there was a satisfaction knowing that a problem can come up and you
Yes.
can fix it because you had direct control over cost,
Yes.
schedule, performance.
All of it.
Right?
I miss
all of
blowing
it.
things up.
Totally. and you can make it. You can make a decision saying, no, I'm not giving you this, but I'll
Right.
give you this. And you negotiated with
And
the
you
customer.
did what you had to do.
And it gets done, and then it's all appreciative. Recommendation letters, like coming from, it was tough. We had a tough cutover, but you persevered. It was gratification.
100%.
Right.
So
where's the
there we go.
gratification
So
now?
There
appreciation,
you go.
gratification.
That's the key.
Who is gracious and thankful for the work that you're doing? All of us, right? And I don't want to belabor it, but the fact remains is that I had my own come to Jesus about this. And I've made decisions that many a night, Chris and I sat up saying, is this the right decision for our family? Who is going to appreciate the fact that I'm doing all of this stuff? And the bottom line was, and it was like a smack in the face, not literally, obviously, but it was for me to have to sit back and say, nobody cares. I can drop dead, plane fall out of the sky tomorrow, and it's not going to matter. And then it was, okay, so what can I do? And what can I do for somebody who's going to appreciate what I'm doing? Whether that be myself, whether that be my husband, whether that be my friends, my community, where can I actually not balance work and life and not balance life and work, but prioritize? Because one of them has to be the priority. You're not going to have 50-50. And it's either you're a workaholic dedicated to your cause or, pause and pivot, you're dedicated to your life and your family. And what you said, nobody's going to care. If you quit tomorrow, Kim, who is going to care? You know what they're going to care about? Do they have access to your files? Mm-hmm. Do they have access to your knowledge?
And who can they put in your place?
Exactly.
This is why I don't put anything on the cloud.
Exactly.
And it's scary because, again, how often do you get to see your friends during the work week? We don't.
We don't. Not anymore.
Not at all. And
Like, okay.
We have friends at work, but we're not. We don't have.
But are they
friends at work
acquaintances or
that
are
we
they
serve.
friends?
Those are acquaintances.
Those are acquaintances, right?
These are friends.
Yeah.
But
There's
there's a work.
difference.
There is a work family that makes
Right.
makes this work balance tolerable at times because they're committed
But you don't
individuals.
want to be in a place that's tolerable. You want to be in a place where you can be.
Thank you.
Where you can and this goes back to something that Jenn and I have talked about is like I know not to bash anything anymore, but I really hate everything that I do now. Like not in the sense of like being with my wife or you guys or anything like that. I hate going to work. Okay. And no, I really do.
Join the club.
Well, no, thank you.
We're the He-Man Work Haters Club.
Oh my God, I love that.
But Jenn has always asked me. She's like, "So what do you want to do?" And it's like, I don't know because, like, from age of 5, I was digging trenches in my father's backyard playing G.I. Joe, and I got to be the real G.I. Joe. I got to do everything I ever wanted to do. I went and I did my own little business for a little bit, and now it's just like my fulfillment is what.
Making me really good spaghetti and meatballs.
Well, no. But the thing is like if somebody asks me, "What do you want to do for a job?" It's like I don't know. I did everything I ever wanted to do for my life. I got to jump out of airplanes. I got to walk hundreds of miles for no apparent freaking reason with like 65 pounds on my back. It sucked at the time, but it was epic now. I got to go defend my country. We won't talk about that right now. So there's all this other type of stuff. Like I got to shoot shit, blow shit up. I got to do.
You've got nothing to prove.
Exactly. I have nothing to prove to anyone.
But is some of that really you don't know what else you want to do or what you would like? Because it's very hard for anybody to say, well, what would you want to do now? If I left right now, what would I want to do? And my answer would be, I'll go work at Walmart, right? Because I could greet people for a while.
He likes the little carts. He likes to look in the little carts. And
So,
Scooter.
hold on. I love the idea of you in a little blue vest. I'm not going to lie. I know, right? Take the visual. It's amazing. Carmine
unsee that.
in a blue
you have to
vest.
see him in the cart, though. That's
So
the cute.
to answer
It
your
would be Costco and not Walmart. Okay?
but to
Yeah.
answer your
Costco pays $30 an hour to their people, so
what?
they do. Yes, $30 an hour starting.
Hey,
Wegmans has a
Costco,
very
how
good-
you doing?
All I was trying to say is that I at this stage in my life, I would want to relax and be comfortable with not having any pressures that say, "Oh, if this job doesn't go well, you suck," right? And that's not. It's not being fair, right? To put that sort of pressure on myself.
I agree with you. So, as Chris was saying before that he's done everything he's wanted to do, I immediately started thinking when we were young, go back to high school. Where do you want to go to college? What do you want to be when you grow up? Then you're in college, or in your case, you're in the Army. And it's, well, what do you want to major in? So there's always this notion of what do you want? And as I think about it, it's what do I want to be? What do I want to do? How much money do I want to make? Nobody's ever asked me, well, what makes you happy?
Right.
And you know what? I know my retirement career that makes me happy. And it's taking photos of pretty landscapes and little flowers and buggies and being with my husband in my garden and our dogs and our friends and having barbecues. And those are the things that make me happy. Now, are we at that stage in life when we can throw our hands up in the air and say we're done? Well, part can say no because you still need to
Financially be
earn money
prepared, right?
and pray to God that we can sustain. But then the other part is like, are you willing to let go of what you currently have and whittle down to do
Yes.
it?
Yes.
Yep.
And like that's a big question for a lot of people. Are you willing to give up your house and move into a condo? Are you willing to give up 2 cars and go down to 1? Are you willing to give up your, I don't know, $500,000, whatever the incomes are of the world today, income to make $45,000 a year? Like, those are the big questions that people have to ask themselves. Can they? Do they know how to live?
And
beneath
can you
their means?
afford
That becomes very scary because it's if you do the 5-minute analysis, you say, no, I can't friggin' do it. But if you sit down for hours and map it out, and you could probably come up with a number that is sustainable for your happiness, right? And that's an important thing. That's why there's people that make a lot of money out there coaching people on retiring and what they can live with, what they can't live with.
And you'll find it's amazing what you really can live with or without. And it's funny because I won't mention the person's name that I had the same conversation with several times for probably a couple years. And she started out with hey, I have this big house, I can't live without it, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, just put herself through the ringer that I have to have these things. And then literally just one day, she's like, I realized I don't need this, got rid of the house. Then it was like, okay, I'm going to buy a condo, got a nice condo, realized I don't even need this big condo. Got a smaller condo. Just a 1-bedroom, beautiful condo made just for her, the way she needed it.
Good for her.
And she's happier than she's ever been. So it's about really what do you really need, right? So when I say she went from a want and a need, and that's what it's about, is truly understanding what do you really think you can live or live without. And I think that's the reality check that everybody has to have. So, we think that we have to have a lot of everything, you really don't. And so we're so used to wanting, I need this, I need this, I need this. And if you put the pros and cons to make that checklist, you'll start to realize that, you know what, I can be retired now and probably have a pretty damn good life. Now, obviously, things are getting more expensive, so you start to think, okay, can I afford to live here? Do I need to be somewhere else? There's all those little things you think about. But at the end of the day, even when we got together, we started to look immediately at where are we at? Where can we afford to be by this time next year? This time, and for me, because I'm obviously still a little bit younger, so I had already had plans in place. So there's all those things that you start to the reality check of where you want to be and what you want to do. Mm-hmm. I said I'm going to have my early retirement, 62. I'm getting the hell out. I already made that plan. I'm sticking to it. Yep. And it is what it is. So you start to just think about dwindling down sooner than later. Getting all the things out of the way, whether it's the bills, whatever it is you need to do. Get everything you need up front and realizing that's all you need. Because the more you keep buying and you start to realize, do I really need to keep buying all these things? What more materialistic things do you need to have? So it's putting those checks and balances in place that will help you start identifying why do you need to have those things, right? And I think that's a part of the thing. When people start talking about balancing, it's not the balancing of just all the other things we're talking about in work. It's a balancing of everything else in life. Whether you like the word or not, it is a balance. It is understanding of, do I need A, B, C, D, or F in order to move forward, and how does that look for me?
So is that balance or is that prioritization?
It's both. Because at the end of the day, we still got to work right now, right? We still have to live. Money is a necessity. Mm-hmm. And if you're not prepared for that, you can't survive. We see that every day. There's been plenty of examples of that every day.
There is, but then there's also things like, the way we live our lifestyles, where, 80% of the meat that we eat, I hunt and fish for. We garden most of our vegetables. I mean, we've learned some.
But if you're working 80 hours a week,
you can't do that.
Exactly.
And then you're always going to have those people. And I get that, but there's always going to be those people who are never going to do that.
Right. I know.
So there's always those people who are never going to be prepared for that, right?
So I call it blees and blondes. Blees and blahs. You have the things, the blees that you need. What are the things I need? What are the things I want? Those are my blahs. And when Amanda was in 1st and 2nd grade, I can't even believe I'm admitting to this now, I volunteered and taught junior achievement to the kids. And I know, isn't that hysterical?
Wow.
Me with a bunch of little ones.
I'm very impressed.
Thank you. Yeah. It was fun. It really was. I went into the classroom. It was a week-long thing. And you taught these children about certain components to life that they're not going to learn in school. And it was great. And one of the things we did was we had our needs and wants and actually understanding from a child's perspective, what are their needs? Oh, I need my cookies. Well, yeah, me too, kid. I feel you.
Right.
I'm not giving up my cookies either. Let's not get it twisted. But then somewhere between 1st, 2nd grade and going off to your first job, those needs and wants change dramatically. Do I need a $50,000 car, or do I want a $300,000, $400,000 home? Well, now you can't even get a $300,000.
You almost can't have no choice, right?
So
exactly.
Depends on where you look.
But again, it's needs and wants, right? So when I look at the four of us, and clearly, without delving into financials and all the rest of it, we have to assume that our friends and our family are all able and capable of taking care of themselves. But the reality is that that's not the case. And they're busting their asses trying to make a living, trying to put a couple pennies here and a couple dimes here so that one day they can retire or appreciate time. But at what's going to be sacrificed along that way? Like you said, 62, that door is shut. It's done. I get that. I feel that in every ounce of my being. I do not understand how there are people who choose, and we know them without mentioning names, to be 75 years old, or however old he is, and being treated like a POS, but coming into the office every day because he felt that's what he needed to do. I don't want my validation for any of us. I don't want your validation to come from an office and a pen, whether it's red, blue, or black, checking boxes, right? It's sad to me. There's something that's been lost. When a 2-income family is the only way you can survive, that's tragic.
Right. And then for some people who still work at those ages, it's because they need to stay busy. It's something they need to do. And I want to have that choice. Even if I decide I still want to continue to do something, it's because I want to, not because I have to. There's a difference, right?
100%.
And like I said, it's still all about preparedness. There are many people that I communicate with, and to this day, who don't even know how to save $1. It amazes me that they don't have a concept of what it means just to save $1. They'll go out here and buy the most expensive cell phone. I don't even know how much of the newest cell phone is, because I'm not going to buy a new cell phone every year. They'll go out and buy the most expensive tennis shoe. I'm not doing that. The priorities is what is the problem, right?
For us, like we just, a few months ago, we recently got new vehicles.
But how old were our vehicles?
Well, they were under 10 years, but
that's the difference.
It took us 18 months for us to say yes, no, and the reasons why for us to get these new vehicles.
But you took the time to understand why you needed, and then they were, like you said, almost 10 years old.
Instead
There's a difference.
Saying, I'm leasing for 3 years, and
right.
I'm releasing.
And I used to do that every 3 years. I used to go out and get a vehicle
every 3 years just to be able to lease a vehicle.
I don't
know
more. The one I have sitting out there owned, bought in less than 3 years. Okay, when I got it. But see, that was my thing. That was my priority. I thought I was the shit. I could afford to do it, right?
There you go.
So that was the mentality.
I get that.
And then there gets to a certain point in your life where I don't need that mentality. I didn't need to have a different vehicle every 3 years, right?
Yeah, I feel that.
But I wanted to have a vehicle every 3 years.
Huh?
But I did want to, because the new ones look sleeker and nicer,
right. But then your priorities changed.
Right.
That car was no longer... Or the new vehicle was no longer, a new truck was important to me.
No, she hated me. She loved our Jeep, but at the same time, she hated the Jeep because it was hand crank roll down windows. There was no heated seats. There was no luxuries to it until
the creature comforts are important.
But what was the real reason we got new cars? You can tell it.
Oh, the Honda was too low to the ground to get in and out of.
Oh, girl,
because
girl, I hear you.
And
my bones hurt.
Can't get moved. You feel like you're stuck.
I need to step up into a vehicle
and wrapping up the deer in a tarp and putting it on the back of the basket and driving down the highway on a Jeep. Let me tell you, sometimes you just worried about what time you came out of the woods.
So
it's a true statement.
These things are what contribute.
Your needs change as you get older.
Yeah,
absolutely. So sometimes it's not the heated seats. It's the fact that it's 4 inches higher. Right.
Those 4 inches make a difference trying to get out of the car.
Makes a difference. I tell you what, I loved my BMW 330 Ci, but it was a pain in the ass to get in and out of.
Yeah.
The only saving grace was it was a convertible, so all I had to do is put the convertible, and I could be able to lift myself out of the car.
So
Okay, that's brilliant. I
So
love
now-
everything about that
So
statement.
what's the balances? Like, what are those things that people should strive to do to like?
What do you really need versus what you think you need?
Right. So like for us, like when the Chris's Dishes was hot, we traveled all over the state of Virginia, Maryland,
New York. We did a lot of
we
travel.
went from Vermont to Key West to Hawaii to do dinner parties. Yes, to Hawaii to do dinner party. But at the same time, we use that time together to be like, hey, we're going to go check out this place. We're going to go check out this place, blah, 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 blah. And now it's like we know our little places. If we want to do a weekend getaway, that's our balance. Like all right, we're done. We're out of here. We're going to go away for the weekend and just go, those types of things. So.
But does that offset what you're putting in for work? And I think that's where it comes in also. If I can give you, boss, 110% while I'm here for 40 hours a week, why would I not put in 120% to my family?
Right.
And for everybody listening, you define family however you want. Your significant other, your kids, your dogs, your cats.
Yourself.
Right, yourself.
Right.
Right? Like, why wouldn't you make that same investment and that be your balance? Because for me, it's not 50-50. I'm not giving you
Absolutely.
the job who could give a shit less about me the same level of effort that I am giving to what's important and who cares about me. Never going to happen again. I won't do it. Now, not to say that if we woke up in June 1st and said, I'm just picking a random day, hey, let's reopen the dishes. Let's sell everything, get an RV, hitch up one of the cars, and just start driving around the country. And we'll cook dinner parties, and we'll get to see things. That's actually not a bad idea.
It's like you could work.
Oh my God! I was just like, wait.
You could be like Guy Fieri and go through
Right.
diners,
Yeah, there you go.
You go out there and you say, you do a podcast about it.
Right? I mean, four of us hop into a little RV. We can get not saying we can get a Class A, but we could. Just putting it out there. I'm just putting it out there hypothetically. But that is one of those things where I love traveling. I do. I love to be traveling, and I love whether it's car or a plane, just not boat. It makes me happy. I feel alive. I'm experiencing things. I'm learning things. That's where my balance is, by being exposed to those things. How do you get there? Like, what is that one thing that would make you so happy to do right now if you didn't have to get up tomorrow at whatever hour and go in?
Say that again?
What's that
I-
one
What
thing?
is the one thing that
let
like
me
it's
go.
Thursday night?
Let me go first.
Well, hold on. It's Thursday night, so tomorrow's Friday. You got to go to work. You don't have an order.
Sit around doing nothing.
Right. What would be the one thing that would
Sitting
make you
around
happy?
doing nothing. He knows if he sees me come out with my PGs on, we ain't doing nothing.
Like, you're home.
Right.
I get okay.
Sitting around doing nothing sometimes is just what I just want to do.
I feel
I
that.
don't want to be on a schedule. I don't want to have to think about where we're going.
Nope.
And that means I can come out, like I said, if he sees me come out with my PJs on, I've gotten cleaned up and I'm coming out with a fresh pair of PJs, I'm good.
There you
I
go.
don't want to do anything.
What about you?
What was the question?
What is the one thing, if you didn't have to go into a job tomorrow, what would you want to do that would make you so happy?
Obviously, we know hunting and fishing, but if it was like work type thing, if it was something-
Anything. Whatever would make you happy.
I think honestly, I think starting that new business.
So starting in your own business.
Yeah.
Okay. What about you?
It's a hard thing to say. I would like to do nothing and just explore what I would really want to do, right? Whether that be doing an inane job that gives me, I work 6 hours and I have the rest of the day for myself, and to spend time with Kimberly, but not to start a new career because you always have to prove yourself. I don't want to have to prove myself. I've done that before. I've done that now. If I can't be appreciated and I can't find the life-work balance, I'll go with life and forget about work balance until I find something that gives me and affords me that thing, right? So that's one of the things I wrote down. I was going to talk about is at the end is just that. You don't have to know. You don't have to know right now. I want to be able to walk away and not feel guilty about walking away and find that thing that makes me happy for however long I have left in this life, right? That's, to me, that's mine. It doesn't have to be everybody's. Apparently, people that are at an early age and they're finding themselves in this conversation that we're having, life-work balance, should do the soul search too, because I got accustomed to making a lot of money at an early age. A lot of money. I mean, when I started with a full-time job, I was making, minimum wage, winding electrical motors and fixing transformers and stuff like that. Really sucked work. It was dirty work. But it was like 5 minutes away from where I was living, so it was great. But then when telecommunications came in, it was bang, 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 and it's like you went from 0 to 60 in like 3 years, and it was like, whoa, this is great money, and it was fun, and it was exciting. So I think that I want to find that excitement again, because I'm not ready to just retire and sit home and take care of the dog or whatever, or join a club or
I see
join the board. Join the board.
You just want to be the clubhouse manager.
I don't want to be doing that shit, right?
Did
Because that's got its own set of life work balances, right? And you got people hating you for no reason. But I think that I would want to do nothing and just find something that, hey, I'm happy, and I'm able to spend the quality time with Kimberly.
I find it interesting that we all sit, and we've all known each other now for almost a decade.
Yeah.
Right? And we can all look at each other and say, what you're currently doing pays the bills, but isn't bringing you joy. And I think about that a lot because, so every night before we go to bed, I tell him, shh, it's prayer time. And I say my prayers.
Do you say it in Hebrew or you say it in English?
Both, actually.
Okay. Excellent.
Both. But to that point, I do, and I ask God to, bless us and extend grace over us and, fortify us with love and peace and happiness and joy. And what is it that brings joy? Is it what you're doing? And then is it up to us to fix that?
Yeah, absolutely. It is up to us to fix it.
We have the control. We have the power. We have the wherewithal, although we think that we're controlled by the dollars that we're making versus the happiness we're expecting.
But would you be happy without those dollars?
Yes.
Absolutely. Because it doesn't have to be anything other than me and Kimberly doing what we need to do, right? Mm-hmm. I don't give a shit about anything else.
And I think for me, it's like I like the work that I do. I think it's the atmosphere and the things that surround me that make me miserable. It's not the work, because I've always loved project management work. That's something that's thrived my business, my personal business, for some years. But it's the environment, when your environment is so, crazy and you have to deal with everything around you. It just makes you want to just like, ugh. You just kind of, when you have that ugh moment, because there was times where I can remember when we would come in and I loved the atmosphere. Those days are gone, and you're constantly having to strive to just come in. It does make you miserable. I mean, granted, I'm very thankful I have a job because there's so many people who don't.
True.
And, but you're still every day trying to figure out what's next, right? So, but, at the end of the day, like I said, it's just really trying to understand how we move forward. What's that going to look like? We're constantly having those conversations as we know the months are getting very close to make that move and do whatever we need to do. But it's life, work, balance. And
you're going to find yourself saying it that way from now on.
And it is, and it's a better way. It's a better way to look at it. And it's a better way to say it, because we have to put life first. Because, like you said, nobody gives a shit about who you are, what you do. We see it every day. I've never seen the amount of people who are constantly leaving the job for whatever reason. It's none of my business. But as soon as they're gone, they're gone. You know, you miss them for a second, and then, and not to be facetious, but like they're not even replaceable anymore. You can't even replace them because they can't be replaced. Yep. Not as individuals because they just aren't replaced anymore. So, right? So you're being thrown more work. You're constantly being put in a position that you don't deserve to be put in because now we're even more overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. And that's the part that's aggravating. That's the part that's making us more sick all the time. And the part that's saying, you know, I hate this. I don't want to have to keep doing this because we're constantly being put in a position. Oh, you do good at what you do. You're great at what you do. Well, yeah,
do more.
Yeah, so do more with lesser. Mm-hmm. And it's going to continue to be not with less, but with lesser every day. Right? So, is it worth it? No. And we know that as we get older, but when you're younger, you strive to continue to grow, to keep making that money. You know, everything is all about, life is always about money. Because at the end of the day, you can't take the shit with you. You can't.
Well, I mean, I think that's like with me growing up in the Army, like, we didn't make a lot of money.
No, I know. I was in the
military.
military.
You were in the Navy.
I know what the military gave you.
We didn't make a lot of money.
Nothing.
And even now that, you know, the making the money that I make, it's just like, I could really care less about it. It doesn't make me happy at all. What things that make me happy are doing things for my friends and my family. You know, like that's what makes me happy.
All right,
ladies and gentlemen, words from Father
Pesce.
From
Father Pesce. We are coming to the end.
Okay, so look, when it comes to life-work balance, you have to seriously search your wants versus your needs, and don't confuse the two, because it's really a balance there as well, right? Start to strategize, place the things that are important in your life, and weigh them against how much of the work is taking those things in your life away or overtaking those things in your life away. Life-work balance can't be skewed to a point where it's mostly work and not life balance. Prioritization is really key. What's important to you now, at this point in time, that you're working today, may be different than when you're later on in life, like say myself, right? So, words of wisdom and advice. This is all I'm going to say. Short term, you can still be frustrated at work, but set the boundaries that make your life-work balance work for you, right? And that's different than for the long-term strategy. Make the change today if you can. If you're really unhappy with the life-work balance and you can't structure that, take the dive. Make the change in the career job that makes the life a priority and not the job a priority. Don't get to the point where you're in the later stages of your career or your life and you're struggling with that because now you're stuck with, I need this job versus I can make a change and be happy. Bottom line.
All right. Very well said. Love it. All right. Well, I appreciate all of my wonderful hosts this evening for coming on. And, of course, the listeners. We truly appreciate you guys supporting us. And, of course, if you would like to be a guest on this wonderful show, The Unveiled, please reach out to Kimberly at wsbilc@gmail.com. Want more of the Unveiled podcast shows? Monetary donations to support the podcast are now accepted. The Cash App, PayPal, Good Pods Tip Jar, or go to the website at www.wsbilc.com. Again, we'd like to thank you all for listening to us tonight. We'll be back next month on Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Be sure to follow us on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. But until then, enjoy the rest of your evening and good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.